What's real? I mean, really, truly real. And more importantly, how can you be sure you know what's real? These two little questions, well, they're the foundation for two of the biggest branches in all of philosophy, metaphysics and epistemology. So let's break them down.
Okay, do me a favor. Look around the room you're in right now. Just pick an object. Let's say a chair. Now here's a simple question. Does that chair exist? The answer seems pretty obvious, right? Of course it does. It's right there.
But hang on. Here's the follow-up question. And this is where things start to get a little tricky. How can you be absolutely 100% certain that it exists? How would you prove it beyond any possible shadow of a doubt?
Believe it or not, with just those two questions about a simple chair, you've just walked right into a massive philosophical debate that's been going on for literally centuries.
See, those two questions represent two huge fields of study. The first question, what is there? That's the territory of metaphysics. It's the study of reality itself. The second question, how can we know? That's epistemology. It's the study of knowledge. So one is about what exists, and the other is about how we can be so sure about it.
All right, so let's tackle that first question and dive into metaphysics. When a philosopher asks, what's real? What are they really trying to get at?
Well, a key idea in metaphysics is something called ontology, and the concept is actually surprisingly simple. You can think of your ontology as your own personal inventory list of everything you believe exists in the entire universe.
So on your list, you've definitely got concrete things, right? Chairs, check. But what about ghosts? Do they make the cut? How about God? And what about abstract ideas like moral values? Does something like justice exist out there in the world? Your personal ontology is basically your unique catalog of what you consider to be real.
But metaphysics goes even deeper than that. It doesn't just ask if things are on the list, but it asks what they fundamentally are. For instance, we all understand cause and effect, but what is causation itself? What is the true nature of time, or a mental state like a belief or a hope? Metaphysics wants to understand the very building blocks of our reality.
So metaphysics gives us a way to think about what's real. But, it's one thing to believe something exists, and it's a whole other thing to prove it. How can we actually be certain about anything on our ontological list? This question brings us to the central crisis of epistemology.
This quote just nails the problem perfectly. There could be a fact that's totally true. That's what is the case. But our knowledge of that fact is a completely separate thing. There might be real things in the universe that we can just never know for certain.
So to try and solve this puzzle, the philosopher René Descartes came up with a really famous and pretty radical thought experiment. His mission was to find just one thing, anything at all that he could know with absolute, unshakable certainty.
His method was ruthless, but simple. He decided to go through every single belief he had, and if he could find even the slightest, most far-fetched reason to doubt it, he would treat it as if it were completely false. It's like throwing out a whole barrel of apples just to see if there's one single perfect apple left at the bottom.
And this process took him on a pretty wild journey, down a rabbit hole through 3 escalating levels of doubt. And with each step, the net of uncertainty just got wider and wider, covering almost all of his beliefs about the world.
So, Descartes' method of doubt comes in 3 stages, each one pushing the boundaries a little bit further. We kick things off with the illusion argument, then we move on to the dream argument, and finally, we confront the most extreme form of doubt imaginable, the evil demon argument.
First up, illusion. Now, this one's pretty straightforward. We've all been tricked by our senses, right? You see a stick in a glass of water and it looks bent. An object in the distance looks tiny. Since our senses can fool us, Descartes argued, we have a reason to doubt the information they give us, at least sometimes. Okay, next up is the dream argument. Think about the most vivid dream you have ever had. I mean, it felt completely real while you were in it, or didn't it? So Descartes argued that since dream experiences can feel exactly like real life, how can you be absolutely positive you aren't just dreaming right now? And this brings us to the final, most extreme level of doubt, what philosophers call hyperbolical doubt. Forget dreaming. What if there's an all-powerful, malicious demon whose entire job is to create a fake reality and feed it directly into your mind? Everything you see, everything you hear, everything you feel could all be one giant, elaborate illusion.
If that demon is real, then everything is on the chopping block. Your body, the room you're in, the entire physical universe, it could all be a trick. At this point, everything can be doubted. Well, almost everything. Because this is where Descartes had his big breakthrough. He realized that even if a demon was deceiving him about everything, there was one thing he couldn't be wrong about: the fact that he was doubting. The very act of thinking proved that there was a thinker. Even if every single one of his thoughts was false, he had to exist to be thinking them. Cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am.
So, after that incredible journey into the depths of doubt, what's the big takeaway? How does all of this connect our search for certainty with the nature of truth?
The crucial point is this. Epistemology shows us that the one thing we can be absolutely certain of is our own mind, our thoughts, our beliefs, our experience of seeing that chair. But we can never have that same level of certainty about the metaphysical reality of the chair itself. There's this permanent gap between our picture of the world and the world that's being pictured.
And that leaves you with one last pretty provocative question to chew on. If the only thing you can ever be truly certain of is your own consciousness, what does that make everything else?